Hi all, welcome to the class on UV visible spectroscopy. Today we will discuss about the Woodward-Fisher rules of enones, aromatic compounds, and effect of conjugation solvents, and the origin of color of compounds which absorb light. This is enone. Enone means a carbonyl conjugated to an alkene. In an alkene, we do have pi to pi star transitions. In a carbonyl, of course, we have pi to pi star. Along with pi to pi star, we also have n to pi star. In enones, we will have all these transitions. Basically, we will be looking at pi to pi star and n to pi star transitions in enones. I'll just discuss the effect of substituents on the electronic transition of n to pi star band. Generally for carbonyl, that means acetone, in this case, the n to pi star transition will be around 280 nanometers. When we have electron withdrawing groups, Cl, NH2, O, R or OH, these more electronegative atoms, when they are present on a carbonyl, what they will do, because of their high electronegativity, they will try to withdraw electrons from the carbonyl carbon. So due to that, what will happen? The non-bonding electron pair, n electrons on carbonyl oxygen, the n electrons on carbonyl oxygen are firmly attached to oxygen. Now they are not that easy for n to pi star transition. So what will happen, due to the presence of more electronegative atoms on the carbonyl group, their n to pi star transitions will increase their energy, or in other words, what we can say, their wavelength will come down. Okay, because of the high electronegativity of these atoms, the n to pi star transitions will increase their energy or will decrease their wavelength. As we all know that energy is inversely proportional to wavelength. So you just read these points. For oxochromic substitution on the carbonyl, prominent hypsochromic shifts are observed for the n to pi star transitions. So the decrease in energy is called as hypsochromic shift. So whenever we have more electronegative atoms on the carbonyl, we do observe hypsochromic shift. Yeah, you can read this point. This is explained by the inductive effect. Inductive electron withdrawal by more electronegative atoms like oxygen, nitrogen or halogens from the carbonyl carbon. This causes the n electrons on the carbonyl oxygen to be held more firmly. So when oxygen holds the lone pair of electrons more firmly, then n to pi star transition is not that easy. So that is why their energy increases or wavelength decreases. Now it is important to note that this is different from the oxochromic effect on pi to pi star transitions. When we look at the pi to pi star transitions, they are different. Okay, n to pi star transitions are different, pi to pi star transitions are different. Generally, pi to pi star transitions will observe bathochromic shift, that means decrease in energy or increase in wavelength due to conjugation. So that we will discuss. So when we have conjugation, then pi to pi star transition energy will come down. In most cases, this bathochromic shift is not enough to bring the pi to pi star transition into the observed range. Let me remind you one more thing. Here, the pi to pi star transition will be around 180 nanometers, then N2 pi star transition will be around 280 nanometers. But in general UV, we do observe the UV visible spectrum from 200 nanometers to 800 or 900. But we don't observe wavelengths below 200 nanometers. That means this pi to pi star transition is not observed in general UV visible spectroscopy. When we will observe this, when we have more conjugation, then we will observe pi to pi star transition. But simple conjugation is not enough to bring the pi to pi star transition into the observed range. Conversely, if the C double bond O system is conjugated, both the N2 pi star and pi 2 pi star bonds are bathochemically shifted. When conjugation is there, then both N2 pi star and pi 2 pi star transitions will observe bathochromic shift. So what we need to remember is the effect of conjugation is more pronounced for pi 2 pi star. If the conjugated chain is long enough, the much higher intensity pi to pi star band will overlap and drown out the N2 pi star band. Of course, generally we don't observe this, but for an extended conjugation like 10 to 20 alkenes conjugation, we do observe this. In that case, pi to pi star transition band will be very high in intensity. So we don't observe N2 pi star transition. N2 pi star transition band will also overlap with the pi 2 pi star transition, but generally we don't observe this. It's not a problem. The shift of the N2 pi star transition is not as predictable. Okay, generally the N2 pi star transition may not change much. Even sometimes if it changes, we may not predict them properly. So as far as enons is concerned, we do learn about the Woodward rules, but these Woodward rules are only for pi to pi star transitions. These Woodward-Fisher rules does not signify the N to pi star transitions. So these are purely for pi to pi star transition. Please, all of you, mute yourself. When we want to look at the Woodward rules for enones, as I said, what is enone? A carbonyl which is conjugated with an alkene. Now, this side, R group may be a hydrogen or a carbon in the case of ketones, or an OH in the case of carboxylic acid, whatever it is. First, we are studying the Woodward rules for ketones. Okay. So in this slide, what we are going to read, we are going to know about the Woodward-Fisher rules of ketones. So I have taken this as R. Then in the case of enones, this is alpha bond and these two are beta bonds. As we know, next carbon to carbonyl, that is generally called as alpha carbon. So the substituents on this carbon are called alpha substituents. Next carbon is called beta carbon. So the substituents on this carbon are beta carbon. So when we have only one double bond conjugation, we will have one alpha and two beta substituents. Similarly, when we have two double bonds conjugation, then we will have one alpha, one beta, one gamma, and two delta substituents. So Woodward-Fisher rules signifies the influence of these substituents on the enone. When we look at the parent value for enones, a six-membered cyclic enone or acyclic enone. Okay, six-membered cyclic enone or acyclic. The parent value will be 250 nanometers. For five-membered ring enones, the parent value is 202 nanometers. For acyclic dienone, it will be 245 nanometers. Of course, we don't need to remember this particularly, because when we say dienone, two double bonds conjugation like this, then we will add 30 for double bond conjugation. So 215 plus 30, 245. So you may not remember this, but yeah, the 6-membered are acyclic enone, the parent value is 250 nanometers. 5-membered ring enone, the parent value is 202 nanometers. Then we will look at the increments. When we have substituents at the alpha carbon or beta carbon or gamma carbon or delta carbon, up to delta, the influence of substituents is determined by Woodward-Fisher rules. Now, when we have an alkyl group or ring residue at alpha position, it is 10. At beta position, we need to add 12 to this parent value. When we have alkyl group or ring residue at gamma carbon, we need to add 18 to the parent value. At delta also we add 18 to the parent value. In the case of O-acetate, we will add 6 to the parent value when O-acetate is at alpha, beta or gamma position. When it is at delta position, we don't add anything. When we have OH group on the enone, alpha we add 35, beta we add 30, gamma we don't add anything, delta we can add 30. Similarly, O-methyl we add 35, 30, 17 and 31. You compare these to OH and OCH3, then you can clearly easily remember the values 35, 30, nothing 50, then 35, 30, 17, 31. Now, when we have chlorine, yeah, 15 and 12, after gamma and delta, we don't add. Similarly, for bromine, 25 and 30. For NR2 group, we add 95 at beta. For NR2, we add 95 at beta. We don't add anything at alpha, gamma, or delta. So these are increments. These influences depends on the position. Further, we also have double bond conjugation. If double bond conjugation is there, we add 30. It is not at gamma. It may be at any position. Okay. So these are common additions if you have double bond conjugation. So this is a simple enone and this is extended conjugation. So this is the extra double bond. So in this case, we will add 30. Then for exocyclic double bond, at any position we add 5. For homocyclic diene, that means 2 alkenes in the same cycle, we add 39. Of course, solvent corrections are there. We can't measure them or we cannot predict them perfectly. So solvent corrections, 1 or 2 nanometer solvent corrections will always be there. Yeah, except solvent correction, we can measure all influence of all other substituents properly. So when we add all these things to parent, we will end up with the total value. So please by heart these values so that we can easily calculate the lambda maximum values for enones. For simplicity, what I have done is the basic enone part is highlighted in some of the examples for practice. Okay, so that you don't confuse with the enone and non-enonic, with the basic enone part and non-enonic part. Right. In this case, we have cyclohexenone. Yeah, the highlighted part is the basic part of enone. As I said, the other side it is ketone, so we don't worry about this. Other side of the carbonyl, we don't worry. And this side, on the alpha carbon, we don't have any substitution. And on the beta carbon, we have 2 substituents. This is one methyl group and this is part of ring. So it is called ring residue. So this substituent is part of ring residue. This is alkyl group. Of course, for the ring residue or the alkyl substituent, the value is same. Since it is a 6-membered cyclic system, the parent value is 250 nanometers and the alkyl groups are ring residues at the beta position, it is 12. So we have two such substituents. So 2 into 12, 24. So altogether we will get 239. So this is how we will calculate lambda maximum values for enones using Woodward-Fisher rules. Now look at this example. Again, this is a 6-membered system, but we have one more double bond in the cyclic system. So the parent value is 6-membered system. So 6-membered ring enone, the parent value is 250 nanometers. When we look at the increments, yes, we don't worry about this other side of the carbonyl. As I said, we don't consider the substituents on the other side of the carbonyl. We do consider the substituents only on the enone part. Now, for simplicity, I have highlighted the enone part. The conjugation, enone part must be extended up to the conjugation. So if you have one double bond conjugation, yes, enone must be considered up to this. If you have two more double bonds, then enone must be extended up to the second double bond conjugation also. Okay. So in this case, the highlighted part is the enone. At the alpha carbon, we don't have any substituent. Beta carbon, also we don't have any substituent. Gamma carbon, also we don't have any substituent. At delta carbon, yes, we have one substituent that is part of ring residue. So at delta, it is 18. We have one such substituent, 18. Basic enone is only one alkene, but we have another double bond, so it must be double bond conjugation. So for each double bond conjugation we add 30. Here we have only one double bond conjugation, so extra additional double bond conjugation, so we add 30. Then another point is homocyclic diene. The diene, two alkenes, two carbon carbon double bonds are part of a single cycle, so we need to add homocyclic diene, that is 39. So altogether we will get 302 nanometers. Generally it is observed at 300 nanometers. As I said, there will be 1 or 2 nanometers deviations due to the solvent corrections. Now look at this example. This is a 5-membered enone system. The parent value is 202 nanometers. When we look at the increments, see this side of the carbonyl, we don't consider it. Then the enone part is highlighted with red color. We have one bromine substituent at alpha position. We have two ring residues at the beta position. So bromine at alpha 25, we have one such bromine, so 25. Ring residues at beta 12 for each one. We have two such ring residues, 2 into 24. Then here we have two rings. So when we have two rings, please remember to look for exocyclic double bonds. Yes, this double bond is exocyclic to this. What is exocyclic double bond? A double bond on the cycle just outside the cycle. Okay, so when we look at the 6-membered cycle, this double bond, see carbon carbon double bond is exocyclic to the 6-membered ring. So for exocyclic double bond, wherever it is, it doesn't matter, we will add 5 for one exocyclic double bond. So altogether we have 256 nanometers. So this is how we calculate the Woodward-Fisher lambda maximum values using Woodward-Fisher rule. Now we will have some more practice problems. See, this is 6-membered enone. So the parent value is 250 nanometers. And we have one additional double bond conjugation. So the basic enone part must cover C double bond O, conjugated C double bond C, then also conjugated C double bond C. As I said, we don't consider the substituents at other parts. Only the substituents on these highlighted carbon chain will be considered. Yeah, at alpha carbon we don't have any substituent. At beta carbon we have one substituent that is part of ring. So beta ring residues. Yes, there is a mistake. It is not alpha, it is beta. ring residues at beta and delta. So 12 plus 18, 13. Then double bond conjugation, yes, we have one additional double bond to the basic enone, so we will add 30. At the same time, we also have an exocyclic double bond. So this double bond is exocyclic to this. So we will add 5. So altogether it is 280. The observed value, and I am sorry, it is observed value for the previous case, for not for this case. Okay. Right. Similarly, I have given some more practice problems. You can practice them. You please take these examples and practice them. Yeah, all these problems you can take and you can practice. But take a small correction. This observed value is not for this. It is the previous one. Then we will look at the Woodward-Fisher rules for aldehydes. Aldehydes means we will have one hydrogen on the carbonyl carbon. We will have one hydrogen on the carbonyl carbon. Then of course this is alpha carbon, this is beta carbon. Now when we look at the Woodward-Fisher rules of enones where carbonyl is an aldehyde, then parent is 280 nanometers. If you have a substituent either at alpha or beta, no, disubstitution with alpha and beta disubstitution, the parent, the value is 220. With trisubstitution, that means alpha, beta and beta, it is 225. Sorry, there was some mistake in this. Yeah, I'll please take this correction. Without any substituent, the parent value is 218. With single substituent, it is 220. With two substituents, it is 225. With three substituents, it is 242. There was some mistake in the um, writing. Okay, so please take this correction. If you have one substituent, it may be at alpha position or it may be at beta position, it is 220. If you have two substituents, one at alpha, one at beta, or one at both of them at beta, it is 225. If you have three substituents, one at alpha, two at beta, then it is 242. So we don't need to worry about the substituents, whatever it may be the substituent. So it is for all the substituents. Now we will look at the Woodward-Fisher rules for enones where the carbonyl is part of carboxylic acid. For carboxylic acid, it is even simplified. With we don't have parent. With one substituent, that means either one substituent either at alpha or at beta, it is 208 nanometers. If you have two substituents, one at alpha and beta or both at beta, then it is 270 nanometers. If you have three substituents, that means one at alpha, two at beta and beta, then we will have 225 nanometers. Of course, we will add 5 for exocyclic double bond. And here one more point to remember, for a double bond in 5 or 7 membered ring, double bond inside the 5 or 7 membered ring, that is what is called endocyclic double bond, we also add 5. So this is additional point we need to remember. Okay, so for carboxylic acid enones with single substituent, it is 208 nanometers. For two substituents, it is 217. For three substituents, it is 225. Exocyclic, we will add 5. Endocyclic in 5 or 7 membered rings, we will add 5 nanometers. Yeah, for this example, you see this is a simple carboxylic acid, and we have one ring residue at alpha position and second ring residue at beta position. So with the two substituents, it is 270 nanometers. We don't need to worry what is that substituent. Okay, if you have substituents, as consider it as one. That's it. Now, this is a 7-membered system. The parent value, we have one ring residue here, one ring residue here. So we have two substituents. With two substituents, it is 217. and this double bond is part of 7-membered ring. So for that endocyclic double bond, we will add 5. So altogether it is 222 nanometers. Yeah.